Hello, welcome to Tag Talk in this new episode of the special guest series. You missed us last week. We didn't do an episode last week. My guest was supposed to be on last week, but I'm busy and so it didn't work out. But it's better that you are on this week because we are going to be previewing Impact Wrestling Sacrifice. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, what you do, all that stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Luke Perron. I should have put my Twitter handle in my name, but I didn't because I'm not a pro to the streaming world yet. But, anyways, my name is Luke Perron. I am a big Impact Wrestling fan. I do some digital production for Impact as well, some video editing stuff. And then outside of that, just avid wrestling enjoyer, sometimes manager, sometimes wrestler. I say sometimes wrestler with my last two bookings, but yeah, and I do a lot of freelance media work in the wrestling space, a lot of photography, a lot of video production, graphic design. And I also host a show called Luke and Friends, which I have different wrestlers or people involved in the wrestling world come on the show. We're currently on a winter hiatus, but when the weather gets warmer and the seasons warm up again, we're going to be going back into production. We still have lots of people coming on that show, but we've had guests like Sway Archer, gear maker for WWE, Impact, New Japan. We had Tempest come on. We had the Voros twins as our first ever guest. And yeah, so I'm just all around dabbling in the wrestling media space in all sorts of ways.
And you are also one of my favorite people in the wrestling media space and on Twitter. So I'm so glad that we were able to make this work because last week we didn't do the show on Monday. And I was like, the only day that really worked for Fightful was Thursday, but you can't do Thursday. So I'm glad you had this Monday.
Thank you so much. And I'm so thrilled to be on here too, because me and Kiley have been acquaintances for so long, and then just Twitter friendship, and for going on 2 years now, and we've never actually had a live back and forth. So this is actually kind of our first meeting, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it's long overdue. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm thrilled to be here. Really.
I'm so excited. Before we get into it, just general housekeeping for the show. If you want to submit a super chat, you can. Your question, your comment, your statement will be read on air. We do have a preference for dad jokes. If you like dad jokes, submit a super chat. Also, this is Fightful Overbooked. Subscribe to Fightful Overbooked. There's lots of great shows. And you want to subscribe to Fightful Overbooked because not next week, but the week after, Haley is returning to Tag Talk.
Yeah!
April 3rd, just in time for WrestleMania. Haley's returning to Tag Talk. So you want to get in on that. So make sure you subscribe to Fightful Overbooked and keep up with all the shows that are happening on this channel because it's the best Fightful channel. Not biased at all. I think I hit all the housekeeping points. Yeah, so let's get into it. We're not going to talk about every match because I'll be honest, this is kind of a big card.
Yeah, it's a big card. It is. But it's kind of a banger card, which is why I'm excited to talk about it. But.
Yeah, when we were planning, whatever it was, weeks ago when you would be on, you were like, well, of course we're going to talk about Impact. And I was like, okay, we'll talk about Impact because we never really talk about Impact on this show.
No one talks about Impact on any show. Let's be real here.
Not because we don't want to. Haley and I both really love Impact, but it's our audience just they're so focused in on the elite. It's always Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks that they want to talk about, which is
I can't blame people too. It happens on a lot of shows. If you look at Impact's numbers, our show doesn't do as well. So shows about our show just they don't really have the same numbers that AEW draws in. So what can you do? But
well, we're giving Impact its attention today, and I'm kind of glad we are because I have the card out in front of me. There's a lot of matches on here that I think, in my personal opinion, are potential match of the year contenders.
Absolutely.
And my Twitter instead today is all GCW naked moonsaults and stuff. No one's talking about it. So you know what? Let's talk about it.
Let's go.
So, of course, we're going to start probably with Mickie James, if you're cool with starting with Mickie James.
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay, Mickie James, Jordynne Grace, Impact Knockouts title. This feud to me has been super fun. I think Mickie James in general, I would say, outside of WWE in Impact has been a lot of fun. I think Jordynne Grace, especially since she started her bodybuilding stuff, competing and everything, I think she's been on another level. So to me, this is probably the match I'm most excited about going into the pay-per-view, which, of course, that's why we're starting with it.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? Well, first of all, about Mickie, about Jordynne, and also this feud and this match.
So yeah, Mickie, first of all, like just what a her whole thing, like when she was doing the last rodeo, the whole stipulation was if she loses a single match, she retires unless she becomes champion, right? So just to watch that happen, every like, you know, there's sometimes where she's on the show and she's facing, you know, like a local talent who it's their debut, and you can kind of breathe a little bit. But when you know you got stuff like Mickie versus Masha, like you're like, is she actually about to retire right now? Because at Impact was doing Masha had never been defeated, and then Mickie was the first person to defeat her, if I recall correctly. So like even that match, I'm like being so nervous because everyone loves Mickie James. Like who doesn't? Like it's and I really grinds my gears. And people say, "Oh, Mickie James is like one of the best women's wrestler of all time." She's just one of the best wrestlers of all time. Like period. Like as simple as that. But it's been so crazy to see her because I think she debuted 2 years ago at, or not debuted, but returned 2 years ago at a Slammiversary, I think it was. And that was the first Impact show I ever worked, which was really cool to be like there for that and see that happen. But yeah, especially if you look at like in WWE, the whole like trash bag incident and all that. And she was so like, imagine like you got one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, seeing them kind of just fade out into like there's no real like pomp and circumstance, and then she's just released like it's nothing. When you've got like, it'd be like, you know, like John Cena to me if like he didn't get like a send off. So that's such an insane thing to see. And being a Mickie James fan, you're like, I guess it's over because like she's not going to come back to WWE. But then she comes into Impact and is like facing local talent, legends, intergender, feuding with like Bully Ray. Like it's so crazy because we all thought it was over for Mickie James for a little bit. We were like, damn, like kicked out of the company with a trash bag. And then she comes on to Impact and goes on this like legendary run and then wins the championship belt. Like this is like, and plus two, going back to the last rodeo thing, I was like, because I really didn't think like, oh, is she actually going to win the belt? Like, is she going to go for a whole title run? Or could just the ultimate send off be like, you know, her putting over Masha and then retiring after this awesome run? Like that really could have been like in the cards. But then she wins. So it's like, damn. And now we've got Jordynne Grace, who's like literally like the modern, like kind of paragon for like peak women's wrestling. It's just perfect and it's crazy and I love it. And I love it.
Yeah, two things from the chat to talk about. Pluggo with a dad joke, which I've heard this dad joke, but I think it's worth saying.
All right, I haven't. Let her go.
Grasshopper walks into a bar. Bartender says, "We have a drink named after you." The grasshopper says, "Wow, you have a drink named Steve?"
That's good.
That's a good one.
I do like that one quite a lot.
And Maria, who, we have, first of all, super chat from my adopted father, Chris.
Let's go.
Just saying hi. Like, hi. No dad jokes from you today?
The guy's the adopted father. He's got to have like, gotta have him locked and loaded.
Yeah, you would think that he would like actually take the time to research a good dad joke and bring it to my show, but he doesn't. So
way to go, Chris. Way to go.
Maria, who is one of our I think Maria's here every week. Impact has had the best women's division for a long time. I agree. I think, especially I should say for North America, I think when a lot of companies weren't paying attention to women's wrestling or were actively like suppressing it, I think Impact with the Knockouts division really embraced it. And as someone who grew up with TNA, then Impact, I definitely agree.
And plus, also, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's like the women's revolution, like was this really awesome thing that happened, and it really made it kind of mainstream. But if you look back at like Impact, there was no need for a women's revolution because they were like main eventing since like the company started, right? So it's like everyone is so far like behind the ball on like giving women like a crack at the main event, whereas like Impact has had like legends like Tara, ODB, Mickie James, Gail Kim, you know, and like just it's so easy just to like rhyme off like incredible women's feud from the start of the company. And then with more modern companies, there's kind of like the obvious choices, and that's kind of it. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I just wanted to say about Mickie James, it's weird to me that some women's wrestlers get like this nostalgia about them and Mickie doesn't. Like I feel like Mickie James, people are much more willing to criticize Mickie James, which is in my opinion totally undeserved. I think if there's no Mickie James, I think that era of women's wrestling, like the 2000s, and then the 2010s even, I feel like there's a lot that doesn't happen with the women's revolution in WWE.
Mhm.
And I think women's wrestling in general really depended on Impact for a long time to be a place where women could go to have to be taken credibly and to be placed in spots where they deserved and to really work on actual wrestling and not the women's wrestling as WWE had been portraying it. So I definitely agree. And we have another super chat from my dad Chris. What's a vegan's favorite submission? An artichoke hold.
Okay, speaking as a vegan here, that's not that bad. Definitely not as good as the grasshopper Steve, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's hard to top Steve the grasshopper. That's like a all-timer joke. I should start like documenting the jokes and like keeping them written somewhere.
Get a spreadsheet going.
And that could be like, where does artichoke hold fit in the ranking of dad jokes?
How many episodes of this show have you had?
How many episodes?
Yeah.
This is 35.
30? Okay. I'm just going to wager to guess that's going to be like bottom of like 17th, 18th spot.
Wow. That's a lot. That was an insult.
Well, no, if you got 35, that's like lower middle.
That's like, okay, that's like average. That's like 50%, like 50th percentile. I'll take it. I'll take it. Back on track to Impact.
Sorry.
Did you I feel like I cut you off at some point and we never got back to it, but did you have any other thoughts about Mickie James, Jordynne Grace?
Oh yeah, I just talked about Mickie James being the GOAT for like 5 minutes. Jordynne Grace though, okay. I am like the Jordynne Grace fan, okay? Every post she makes, right up on this story immediately. Every picture retweeted. Every GIF, boom, I got it covered. So like she's just like so special. And like even before she went like super Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilder mode, like before that, where she had like the Steiner gimmick, right? Like Thick Mama Pump. Think about that, was like almost a year and a half ago, and compared her to that now, it's like she's even more closely resembling that. It's so crazy. But I don't want to talk about just how like ripped she is, because like the in-ring talent here is like really the focus. It's just so incredible to see the stuff she does, especially with intergender matches. It's absolutely incredible, and I think her being Impact World Champion needs to be like in the cards, not just Knockouts champion, but like, yeah, you know what I say? Double champ, make it happen. Knockouts while being heavyweight champ, like that would be so sick. Has that ever happened in the history of wrestling before?
I don't think so.
Would it not look amazing on her to see those two belts? And I think it would, like, we got something there story-wise and aesthetically it works. And even the losers who were like, it's not realistic that like a woman could beat all these guys. Well, with Jordynne Grace, first of all, it is realistic, as if realism matters at all. Like the whole, it's not realistic. Like I care at all.
It's wrestling.
Like exactly. So I just think it would be so cool to see her do it. And she's got like that charisma, and she's got like she's just got like the X factor, So make her X Division champ too. Give her all 3. Then put her on a tag team. Give her all 4 belts. Then put her on a men's tag team. Give her all 5.
Let her be a tag team by herself, and then she can have both.
Literally, left bicep, right bicep. There you go.
That's all she needs. That's all she needs. I love Jordynne Grace. I've been a fan of Jordynne Grace for a long time. What I really love, though, is that not just, the work she puts in for bodybuilding, but also, like you mentioned, her in-ring stuff. I think she's improved tremendously, which wasn't saying she was bad before. She went from, like, really good to, like, really, really great, like, top 5 women in the world to me. And I just think she's so neat. Like, I just love to watch her wrestle. And just enjoy herself, and like the training videos that she puts on Instagram and Twitter where she's
Yeah.
like learning to do new things instead of relying solely on being this like muscular person who can do body slams and all these different things. She's like reinventing herself, and I love to see that because I do feel like sometimes wrestlers, when they are, they're muscular and that's their build, I feel like they do sometimes rely on just being buff and being, like Brock.
Yeah.
But I do love to see her like learning how to do a moonsault and learning how to do all these other fun things. So
Yeah.
I
And
respect that a
that's why I
lot.
kind of wanted to emphasize that too, because as if Jordynne Grace is watching this, like I just don't
Mhm.
want
She's
I,
like,
f- I feel like sometimes people would be like, oh, she's jacked, and like that's like the only thing they talk about. Like Jordynne Grace is like a three-dimensional human being, guys. Like
yeah,
she actually has like the acting skills that wrestlers have, and like the charisma, and like the grind set, and just like everything. She is the full package, and I think that's what matters more so. Like her being in shape is like awesome, but it's not like why I think she should be like the top of the pyramid, because even long before that, like I was like, she's so sick, like it'd be perfect for her. And now this is just like the icing on the cake.
yeah. Kaden in the chat says, "I love your shirt so much. Thank you. I got it from Target in the little boys section. You can go check that out if you want."
Wow, guys, I'll be with you. I was so panicked with what I was gonna wear for this show. I changed my outfit like 3 times, and then I saw Kylie pull up in that, and I was like, dude, I should have wore a yellow white checkered tank top, man.
You should have.
Actually, me
You
and
should have.
Kylie have so much matching wardrobe. It's
You
kind of
do.
crazy. We didn't coordinate. I'm kind of like in my man era right now, as we know. But if this was like a year ago, I would have
We
been
should have
twinning very
coordinated.
hard with you.
Next time we'll coordinate and we'll show up in matching outfits down to like the accessories. We'll be complete.
Perfect.
I think we need to do it. But no, back to Jordynne Grace before we get off track again. I'm really excited for this match because I really do think that Mickie brings out something in Jordynne that elevates her even more. And I think these, for whatever reason, maybe it's because people love Mickie. I feel like these matches that they have, it really brings a spotlight to Jordynne Grace. And I love that because I feel like Jordynne Grace, people just forget she's there. Or they're like, she's Jonathan Gresham's wife. She's like there. She's not as good as like this other person in WWE or AEW just because she's an Impact. But I'm like, oh, and I remember the moment that really convinced me that the match that really convinced me that Jordynne Grace was super talented, it was a GCW show in Atlanta at Center Stage. She wrestled Allie Katch, and it was fantastic. Also, if you hear children laughing, my neighbors are outside in my window.
Oh, that's so good. Allie Katch, that's another person I'm like a ride or die for,
I
Like,
love Allie Katch.
and I never ask wrestlers for like pictures, like almost ever. But
Mhm.
when I was at I did commentary on a show in Toronto one time, and Allie Katch and Effie were like on the card, not as a tag team, like they were separate. But at the end of the show, I was like, "Can I get a picture with you guys?" And it's like the goofiest picture. I'm like sitting on Effie's lap with like a cowboy hat on, and like Allie's got her tongue out. Like that was the only time I ever was like, "Can I get a picture with you guys?" And like when I met Jay White and like Tomohiro Ishii, like I was like, man, it'd be so crazy. But I like held my composure. I was like, no, I'm not gonna ask for a pic with anyone. But then with those two, I was like, I have to. Like, I have to.
I get so nervous when I meet wrestlers, like whether it's like in an interview for whatever I'm doing, or if it's like at a show, or Bobby Fish, who whatever reason I see everywhere, I get like clam up and I get so nervous. But the only person who's ever really like brought me out of my shell, and he did it because he made fun of me. Well, he made fun of my shirt, was Anthony Ogogo. Like
That's a good one.
He's just one of those people, I guess, that just is like so personal. And I really, it was a good interaction. Maybe I'll do a story time about it one day. But
you know what though? If you are interviewing wrestlers in person, I think it's okay to ask for a picture, because then you'd be like, "Oh, I need this for promotional purposes."
I need it for a thumbnail.
Exactly. But like most of the time when I meet wrestlers, like I'm working, right? So like I don't want to like cross that line or anything. But that's like another thing too. You get to a point with wrestlers, like when you're working, where like you stop processing it as like, wow, like you're like a big thing. But it all depends on the person. But like, yeah, with Allie, it's like, the vibe. Like they're so friendly, and you can just be like whatever with them. And then I freaking fumbled by not going to Toronto GCW last night. But my friend went and he got a picture with Ali and sent it to me and tagged me in it. And I was like, dude, I fumbled that big time.
You should have gone. You should have gone.
Well, my brother was home from university. I wanted to spend time with him. So it was a cute, wholesome family movie night. So it was worth it in the end.
They should have gone with you. Whole family to GCW.
My brother lives right beside the venue, actually. He really should have just gone to that. But anyways, I digress, as they say.
So I'm looking. All right, you know what? Let's just the logical connection here. Jonathan Gresham.
Whew! What a match this is going to be.
So, first of all, Jonathan Gresham in Impact has been like a blessing. Like Jonathan Gresham, after Ring of Honor collapsed, he did GCW, he did like Indies, he did some Ring of Honor AEW.
Didn't he run his own show as well? That was like all rappers and stuff.
He ran like 2 shows in Atlanta. I wanted to go to one, but it like didn't work out, and like the tickets were like kind of expensive, but whatever. And then he shows up in Impact, and I'm like, okay, like this is a thing that we're doing now. And not only does he show up in Impact, Jonathan Gresham is on like, I think, a dream match run. And I think Jonathan Gresham versus Mike Bailey is a dream match.
Yeah.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who doesn't think it is. And I am so stoked because Gresham is another one who doesn't get his flowers for how much he's improved in the ring. And like, and I say that as, you know, he's definitely an excellent technical wrestler, very innovative and creative. And I'm like, he improved in the ring, but he did. And I'm so excited for this matchup. This like, because Mike Bailey, he's, you know, technical in a way, but he doesn't wrestle like Gresham does. So, and they have such great minds, and I'm like so stoked about it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And so first things first, I think Mike Bailey is like the best wrestler on earth right now. Big claim to make, I know. But second of all, in 2020 is when I started getting into wrestling. Maybe 2019. Isn't that crazy that I only got into wrestling like a few years ago? So we'll regroup on that. We'll talk about that in a second. But there are 4 wrestlers who got me back into wrestling. Jonathan Gresham, Ryusuke Taguchi, Kenny Omega, and Will Ospreay, your favorite wrestler on earth, if I remember correctly. So, anyways, just off frame, I have a picture of Will Ospreay and Hiromu Takahashi from Wrestle Kingdom signed by both of them. Anyway, so those 4 guys got me kind of back into wrestling because, long story short, I was feeling nostalgic one day and I wanted to watch like some top 10 lists. And it was like a What Culture top 10 wrestlers. And they said, they kept saying this Kenny Omega guy. And I was like, who's Kenny Omega? Like, I was expecting like all the names from like my childhood, right? So I was like really expecting all these names, but then I was like, oh, what's New Japan? Because it's from Kenny Omega. I discovered New Japan. And then I was like, maybe I'll watch some of this. It seems a bit more like different than WWE, because when you're not into wrestling, you think WWE is like all there is. Mm-hmm. And I watched the Best of Super Juniors 2019, I think it was. It was the one that Will Ospreay won. So I was watching Best Super Junior 2019, and Gresham was in that tournament. And I saw him wrestle, and I had never seen anything like it in my life. I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And like, I was showing like my brother and like everyone I know. I was like, look at this guy. He's crazy. And then Ryusuke Taguchi was in that tournament, and so was Will Ospreay. So I was just seeing 3 completely different wrestling styles of like super submission, super high flying, and then comedy. And Taguchi was like, it was like I was watching a comedian in the ring. I didn't realize comedy wrestling could actually be like hysterically funny, and because it's not done well in WWE, they don't really put a lot of effort into it. So I watched that and I was just blown away. So Gresham holds like such a special place in my heart. And then to see that he was going to be an Impact was so amazing to me. And then we get Gresham, Bailey. And when I discovered Mike Bailey, I was at a local show in Toronto that he was on. And this was like the day before, because Bailey was barred from entering the US for like 5 years. If you didn't know that. So a lot of people don't know that. But anyway, like was barred from entering the US for like 5 years. And then this was like the day before that expired, that he could go back into the US, and he put on this banger match. And I was like, okay, this guy's crazy. This guy's like next up. Sure enough, the Destiny show ends with Scott D'Amore offering him a contract and joining Impact. And I was like, let's go. And then Bailey goes on like the greatest run of any independent wrestler. I don't know if you can call him independent because he signed to Impact, but like he works indies like every weekend, right? So it was on like an all-time run. So these are two wrestlers who are like pretty much flawless in ring, but very different styles. So to see them come together after both having like an amazing last few years, it's like gonna be monumental. And like I don't even know what else I can say about it. Like it's just gonna be like that's the match I'm most excited for. And my family's coming to this. My grandmother, who's like 80 something, is coming to this because the venue is right beside her house. And she's like, I want to go. I want to see what you do for work and like kind of get in on this world. And I'm like, oh, I got you. I got the hookup. In this card. So they're going to see Bailey Gresham, and it's going to be such a special match. That might be match of the year. Like we don't even know. Like it's whew.
It's so wild that your grandma, who I'm presuming doesn't watch wrestling.
No, she's never watched it in her entire life. The other day,
this is going to be her first show. This is going to be her first show with, and it just so happens that two of the best in the world are going to have a classic. Well, I have a friend named Angela, and she didn't watch any wrestling ever. Her first show, I brought her with me and my sister to Chicago for Forbidden Door, and she got to see like Okada wrestle, and she's like, I don't know who this is, but super cool, while everyone around her is losing their minds because it's Okada. And I was like, that's so funny that people who don't watch wrestling just, they just stumble into dream matches and get to see them. I'm excited to see what your grandma has to say.
Yeah, and like also PCO is on this card, and like his whole gimmick is that he's like Frankenstein. And my dad, this guy's crazy. So I'm glad that like it's gonna be such a varied card. Like we're getting like 5-star classics, but then we're getting like PCO zombie Frankenstein. Like last week, PCO got like buried in the deserts of Las Vegas and then dug his way out. He's been shocked by lightning in the last month of TV. Like he's such a crazy character. And then we got like Santino working at Impact now. Like it's crazy, man.
It's a wild time, but I feel like Impact has really leaned into like having more variety on their shows. Like you have super serious wrestlers like Gresham, and then at the other spectrum you have PCO, and then you have, and I guess we'll get into it, you have like 6-man tag matches, and you also have like, the Bullet Club is there. And you have the X Division, which is my favorite thing about Impact is the X Division.
Well, my dad's favorite wrestler is Trey Miguel from like the 4 matches he's seen. Told Trey backstage, I was like, my dad thinks you're so sick. And he's like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I'm so fired up. So I hope my dad gets to meet Trey Miguel this weekend.
Get a picture.
Yeah, actually, one of the few pictures I have is me and the digital team from Impact got like a photo backstage, just like in front of the monitor, the last pay-per-view. And Trey Miguel like jumped across and like photo bombed it. So like that's a nice like organic picture with a wrestler.
Oh, I love that. I also love Trey Miguel.
He's a sweetheart.
So let's talk about Trey Miguel, because before we went live, you sent me on Twitter. So it was Trey Miguel defending the X Division Championship against TBA.
Santino's hand-picked opponent.
Yeah. And so before we went live, it was announced. Impact Wrestling Twitter. I have the tweet up right now. It's Trey Miguel will defend the X Division Championship against Lince Dorado, which so random to me, but also like this match is going to be insane because it's Trey Miguel and it's Lince Dorado, and there's nothing that these two men are afraid of, I think. And and I'm worried because I'm always worried when two people who aren't afraid of things have a match because it's absolutely insane. But also, I don't know. I feel like this could be sleeper match of the night. Like I'm like thinking through. Okay, Trey Miguel has had an Impact, just an incredible run at Impact, incredible as a wrestler. I feel like he's really come into his own, especially. I'd say the last year. I'd say, and Lince Dorado is such a wild card because I feel I don't watch a lot of his stuff, and I feel like maybe that's my fault. Maybe I'm just like not giving him his due. But I'm excited to see how he rises to Trey Miguel.
Yeah, I think the last like Lindsay Dorado match I saw was when they did SummerSlam in Toronto that weekend. There was like a dark match. He was on a 6-man dark match after SmackDown, I think, and that was crazy. Actually, really quick, that weekend was so wild because that was when Sasha Banks returned, and that was also when on SmackDown they did Buddy Murphy versus Roman Reigns, and everyone was like, "This is such a random banger," and that was crazy. We were not ringside, but like 4th row back that whole weekend, and like yeah, that was such like a wild card. But anyway, so Lindsay Dorado, that's a guy who like I think he'd be like great in New Japan, like best of the Super Juniors. And what I love is that Impact and New Japan are doing so much talent sharing, and they were long before Forbidden Door, might I just say? Because that's another thing that grinds my gears. Okay, let me tell you something really quick for the audience out there. Okay, people when Forbidden Door happened were like, "This is so revolutionary! Like companies finally working together." And like, don't get me wrong, it's cool that it's happening on like such a big stage, but like months before that, Impact would be like, "Oh, by the way, Kenta's going to be here next week just for fun." And then they'd be like, "Oh, look, Finn Juice is going to fight Motor City Machine Guns." And like, Tomohiro Ishii is going to be on like 9 weeks in a row for no reason. And like, Impact just does shit like that all the time, and they still do. And no one really remembers Jay White, big run in Impact last year for like 7 episodes. And so like, Impact does stuff like that all the time, and now we're doing Multiverse of Matches 2 coming up, which there's some bangers on that card. But yeah, and like it's just crazy because like the Forbidden Door aspect of Impact has like pretty much always been there because they did a Impact Bound for Glory in Japan one year in like the mid 2010s, and they did that at Karakuen Hall. So like Impact has always been exchanging talent with people, but I think yeah, if I don't know what the plan is with like, because sometimes Impact will just bring people in for like one match, but if Lindsay Dorado's sticking around, it'd be cool to see him do some stuff in Japan as well. So
yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. When was the last Lindsay Dorado match I saw?
When was the last Lindsay Dorado match? Period.
Oh, that's so true. I don't know because the last SmackDown I went to, I want to say he was there, but not the last one, the one before that. But I don't remember. But regardless, I do love when wrestlers when they're in a not so great spot in another company, and then they show up in a different company and really cement their name. And I think this matchup with Trey Miguel, I think one, they're both lunatics and it's going to be a lot of fun. The X division, I think, suits Lindsay Dorado and wrestlers like him really well. I think, I don't know if he's sticking around because I don't know Lindsay Dorado.
I hope so, man.
I hope he does at least a couple more matches.
Like Lindsay versus like Mike Bailey, like that'd be so sick. Lindsay with the Motor City Machine Guns facing some Bullet Club guys. Also, Colby Fuller said hello to me in chat. This is a big day for me, guys. Hello.
This is my sister. Why didn't she submit a super chat? I don't know. Maybe she doesn't like us. But no, I'm so excited. And oh, well, there's the super chat. What do you call a cow with one leg?
Am I supposed to say the punchline?
No, I'm trying to decide. I think this is supposed to be lean beef, but she put Lena beef.
Yes, Lena beef. Sounds
Lena
like
beef.
well, Lena Headey played Cersei in Game of Thrones, so anytime I hear Lena, I think of her.
Trey Miguel versus Lena Beef instead.
That's not a bad wrestling name.
No, it's not.
It's no litigator, but it's up there.
I'm gonna be a wrestler and I'm gonna be called Lena Beef. I think I'm gonna do that.
Do you have any in-ring training at all? Just side note.
No,
It's so fun. You should do it.
When I was a kid, I did like I did like karate and like MMA and like stuff like that.
Whoa.
But then I don't know. I feel like I'm not afraid of heights because I also went to firefighting school and they break you of that really soon. So maybe I could be a wrestler, but then also I'm like, wrestlers put up with a lot of things that I don't want to put up with. So
working for $0 is probably one of them too.
yeah, working for $0, a hot dog and a handshake. Also, like the fans being super creepy towards women. Like maybe I
Such
don't
a
want to
good
put up
point.
with
I didn't even think about it. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, in-ring wrestling is very fun. I just had my debut match in a 6-man tag, and then my second match of all time is going to be a hardcore match. So that's fun.
You're gonna have a blast.
And I have like
think.
no training, by the way, too, because the whole gimmick of the litigator is that he's just a dumb lawyer. And the promoter was like, "Oh, let's get you in a 6-man tag match, do some heel stuff, just like get some cheap heat and get the pin." And I was like, "Okay." And now he's like, "Now we're gonna do a hardcore match against Psycho Mike, who I have this whole feud with." But anyway, very exciting. I'm probably gonna bleed. We'll see what happens. But anywho,
You're in your John Moxley era.
literally, and Masha Slamovich is on that card. Crazy. And Mike Bailey was on the last one. And Veda Scott called my first match. How insane is that? Like,
That's crazy.
I really just lucked into it. Sometimes I feel bad because some people work so hard to get bookings, and it's like, what did I do to deserve that? Like nothing. So,
I mean, I think you deserve it, but I won't fight you on it.
thank you. Anywho, Lince Dorado, that's gonna be something. And I think too, just to get us back on track here, especially to new people who don't know like a ton about wrestling, like high flyers always can kind of pull in anyone because a lot of people, they don't care about like a technical grappling masterpiece, you know, because it's harder to kind of appreciate that if you don't really like know the real skill it takes. So I think also do you know how many people we have in chat right now, like who are watching this? I don't know where that number is.
15.
Okay, for the 15 people watching this, I know for a fact all of y'all ain't watching Impact Weekly, okay? This card coming up, if you want to get into Impact, this card coming up is like the one to do it because it's like we're getting luchadors in here. We have New Japan guys in here. We've got, you know, knockouts. Like it's such like a mixed bag. And that's the true beauty of Impact is every week it's like you're getting the most random assembly of like epicness in the ring.
So I'll just read the whole card so that the people watching understand. So, singles match, PCO versus Kenny King.
Banger.
Who I think Kenny King follows me on TikTok. Don't tell him he follows me because I don't want him to unfollow me. Impact Digital Media title match, Joe Hendry versus Brian Myers. Brian Myers is another kind of unsung hero of wrestling, I think. We already talked about Gresham versus Bailey. Deonna Purrazzo versus Giselle Shaw.
Oh, that's going to be a banger.
Yeah. Deonna Purrazzo. She kind of, I mean, people really rank Deonna highly in terms of women's wrestling, but that's another wrestler who worked her ass off to get, like, to be this level of wrestler. And people are like, she's an Impact. Stop it. Trey Miguel versus Lince Dorado. Busted open match, Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. Bully Ray. I have thoughts about Bully Ray, but that's okay. Where were we? Oh, 6-man tag team match. Franke Kazarian, who's in Impact now, if you didn't know.
Crazy.
Josh Alexander and Rich Swann versus Time Machine. It's Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Kushida, who's
what a combo.
I know, but it's like it's so incredible that those 6 men are in the ring together at the same time.
And if that happened on AEW, that would break the internet. I'm like, Kushida is on a tag team with Motor City. Oh my god! And Kazarian, like, also, whatever happened to Elite Hunter Kazarian? Just bring that up. That just dropped out of nowhere. Because he even came into Impact a few times as the Elite Hunter. Like while working for AEW, he would just pull up and be like, "Oh shit! Like the Elite Hunter's here." But anyways, Kazarian and people like, you know, like Kazarian's like a guy that like early AEW people like worship this guy, and now that he's like in Impact, it's like, oh, never mind. Actually, he's actually mid. Like, I don't know. And also the fact that Josh Alexander is like literally like one of like the goats for like technical wrestling and just putting on showstoppers. Like that guy can just go.
Yeah, and I think back to like when Kenny Omega was doing stuff with Impact and people were like looking at the Impact roster and they're like, ooh, where can our Kenny Omega dream matches be? But it was like, and now they're like, I don't really care about Rich Swann, who had, you know, an incredible match with Kenny Omega. And I'm like, why? Like, that's an incredible wrestler. And people just,
And I can't blame you for not knowing because, like, there's so many wrestling shows. You don't have time to watch everything, but it's
Mhm.
not so much not watching Impact that grinds my gears because, like, there's a lot of like I've never watched The Wire, so it's like that's an amazing show, but like I just don't have the time for everything, right? And there are bangers that like I know I'm missing out on. So when people don't watch Impact, it's totally fine. But it's when people act like Impact is like it's like a negative place to be, or
Yeah.
they. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about like what Impact is, and people also like people say like, oh, AEW like bingo hall like mud show. It's like I'm pretty sure Impact was like literally run out of bingo halls pretty much, but like that doesn't really matter because also I don't know like where like because Impact is such a small following, right? It's like a true cult fan base. I don't know where we're getting this budget from to get these like flawless matches. Like when we had Jay White coming in doing matches against, people and just all this New Japan stuff, really, these are matches that would be like worshipped under a different banner. And even like Josh Alexander versus Moose, like that was such an insane feud, and to be there in the building when Josh won. What I love about Impact is because the audience is so small, the people who like really watch the show love it more than like Impact's number one fan loves Impact a million times more than AEW's number one fan likes AEW because they're like feral for Impact Wrestling, and that's what I love about having a cult following. Like they care so much for the product. And my dad came to Rebellion in New York, and he had never seen like a wrestling show live before since we were like little kids. And my dad just looked at me after Josh Alexander won, and my dad was like, I guess people like really take this seriously. I was like, yeah, bro. Cause the roof like exploded off that place.
Yeah.
It was nuts. But point being, this is like Impact is just like the place to be, I think, if you really care about good in-ring quality and you don't care about like the numbers. And guys, if you get off Twitter for like 2 seconds and don't pay attention to like what people tell you is good or bad, you're gonna be like, well, even though I'm telling you what's good right now, the point is you're gonna watch it and be like, damn, like they actually put out some bangers, and this is gonna be nothing but bangers.
And my least favorite thing, and this is like in wrestling in general, not just Impact, is when I really like something and then someone's like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because they could have booked it this way, which is a lot better. And I'm like, why are you trying to ruin the love that I have for this thing? And I think people do that a lot with Impact. I think they see like the Bullet Club showing up in Impact, or they see someone like Franke Kazarian, who's a legend of the business, an unsung hero. I will not take any Kazarian slander. Going to Impact and like all these things, and they're like, oh, but it would mean so much more in AEW, or it would mean so much more if this happened like at a different show at a different time, whatever. And just if you don't want to watch Impact, don't watch Impact. Like no one is forcing you to watch Impact, but it's like don't act like the Bullet Club going to Impact would ever be a bad thing for wrestling. Like that is such a good thing for wrestling because the more places that are more promotions that are like healthy and thriving and working together, the better wrestling is. And I feel like we just need to stop taking wrestling so seriously. And I don't ratings discourse, which is my least favorite thing on wrestling Twitter. Ratings discourse, the demo discourse, a booking. It's
Yeah,
so
the
annoying.
demo ones, because like the rating ones, like I get it, and but the way I treat ratings is, it serves as a great kind of benchmark of like, oh, if I have free time, should I check this out? It does. The rating doesn't actually mean how good or bad it is. To me, the rating is it being recommended to me as a match worth watching or not? But
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't quantify how like good or bad the match was. But the demo discourse, that's the crazy one because it's like imagine you discover a song by like a small town artist and you're like, this is the best song ever, and I was like, it only has 48 plays on Spotify. Like it matters. The song is
Yeah.
my favorite song. Like who cares? And like even like apply it. I think if you take a lot of the arguments in wrestling and apply them to any other medium, it shows how ridiculous they are. Like imagine like, okay, WWE and Marvel is a good parallel. Like people be like, oh, Doctor Strange brought in this much money. It's therefore better than Citizen Kane. It's like, well, no, actually. First of all, art is subjective. And second of all, there's different circumstances, you know, brand recognition, having a monopoly for so long. But yeah, I mean, someone in chat's making a good point is that Impact's kind of reputation has been badly damaged through like kind of some flopped booking back in the day.
Mhm.
And I get that. And I think that's fair, but I think there when a company like WWE, like they've WWE at its lowest has been worse than, you know, Impact at its lowest, you could make the argument. And but I think because they have like the brand recognition monopoly, it's just easy to forgive them because the option's always going to be there, just be a WWE fan.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on like this discussion though. I think it's important, but I just want to say it's always funny to me when people are like, "Well, females 12 to 34 liked this segment on AEW, but males like 49 or 55 and over hated it." And like they really break it down until
Yeah,
it's
and
almost like the
good for them.
numbers
They
are
didn't like
moving.
it.
I'm like, cool, I guess. It's almost like women wrestling is not an attractive community for women. But anyway, um I want to talk about the 6-man tag match because we talked a little bit about Franke, but I'm really excited about the 6-man tag match. And so I'll say it again: it's Franke, Kazarian, Josh Alexander, and Rich Swann. Who Josh Alexander and Rich Swann are like Impact MVPs. Like back in like the COVID era, I feel like these guys really, carried the flag and made it work. And in the Kenny Omega era. And then Time Machine, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Kushida. Who Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, let me Google it before I say this. Hold on.
Okay. But yeah,
Um,
Saban, one of the nicest guys ever. And Chris Saban has been using a picture I took as his profile picture for the last like 2 years.
really?
Yeah, his profile picture on Twitter, I took that. But the day he changes that, y'all ain't hearing from me for a while.
So I was right. Yes, Motor City Machine Guns are GCW tag champs.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
which
so sick.
that is so funny to me. But I love it. But I'm really excited for this match. Well, one, I'm really excited for Franke Kazarian and Impact because, like I said, he's an unsung hero, and also I feel like he in AEW kind of really, maybe he just like got healthier physically or I don't know, whatever. But he like was doing a lot of really good stuff in the ring, and then he was the elite hunter, and then he kind of like faded from AEW, which is disappointing. But Josh Alexander is Josh Alexander. He's a legend, an incredible human being. Rich Swann. I love Rich Swann. And then Kushida, who
Nuts.
Kushida is crazy. And Kushida is another one of those guys who kind of, peaked and then went, did WWE and like got lost in the WWE system. And then fans like his name has a lot of value now, so fans will flock to Kushida.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what they do in this match. I love, and it's the elite fan in me. I love a 6-man tag.
Yeah.
They're wild and insane, but I feel like having 6 men, like there's so much room to do creative things and make wrestling not MMA, and I'm so excited about it.
Especially when you've got like a bunch like that. That is like a lot of like, Motor City Machine Guns, like one of the best tag teams of all time. And then you've got Kazarian was his whole thing was that he was part of a 3-man tag. And then Kazarian paired like pretty much everyone in there checks the box of being like one of the best in their category,
Yeah.
Like Josh is longest reigning Impact World Champion of all time, which is so sick, right? And then you've got Kushida, like you were saying, who was like, for a long time, like one of the best super juniors in New Japan. So you're getting guys who are like best ofs in like sort of all their categories and then throwing them at each other. That's going to be a wild one too. And like you were saying about Lindsay versus Trey Miguel, how that has potential to be kind of like a sleeper hit, like match of the night kind of surprise. So does this, I think.
Yeah.
Because like Motor City Machine Guns are so creative and innovative in the ring. Like you always know they're going to whip out something special, but then bring in that sort of like a wild card who's just got that extra amount of energy and just that kind of like, he's even more fast paced, even more like aggressive than Motor City Machine Guns. Like that's going to be something special. And I like that it's a bit of like a styles clash too. Like, Kazarian and Josh are kind of more like heavyweight kind of guys.
Yeah.
And even Swann too, but Kushida's like such a lightweight, kind of like a speed guy. And Yeah, like it's just that's gonna be a banger. Like I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and what I really appreciate about it is I feel like it's easy to have a 6-man and just put people in it, and it doesn't have to make sense. You just put,
Yeah.
2 teams of 3. But I feel like these teams, I feel like they make sense, and I can see in the teams how everyone would click within
Mhm.
their team. And it doesn't feel to me like a throwaway 6-man just to get people on the card, which I feel like a lot of promotions do, which I'm really excited about. And what I really love about Motor City is that throughout their whole career, they've always adapted to the style of their opponents or like the style that's sort of the fans are, craving or whatever it is. They have their own distinct style, but they're so versatile as wrestlers and they never get credit for it. I feel like people really started to talk about Motor City like around Forbidden Door and like that sort of thing. And, they were wrestling FTR and all that sort of stuff. But I am super excited to see, especially Alex Shelley, contend with Franke Kazarian, who's like, not that he's super, buff, but he's definitely like a muscly guy who very much is like a mat wrestler.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's good about Motor City Machine Guns is like back when like Impact was like not like well they're still not dominating, but they're a bit more like talked about now, I find, and like people do give them kind of the respect. People who like really like
Mm-hmm.
I almost said real people, but like oh, you got a super chat here, do that.
Oh, Chris, my adopted dad, says, "What card game do wrestlers like to play?" Bridge. I don't think that one was as good as the vegan artichoke one.
Dude, that one's hitting number 34 on the ranking.
Wow. You don't even know the other ones. You're
I
just
know.
like, this is so bad that it's like such a low bar.
I like how I've also never interacted with Chris ever in my life. I'm gonna get a DM after this being like, what the hell, bro? I'm just trying to make someone laugh.
He's my dad. He can't be mean to my friends. So that's that.
Nah, Chris, you seem like a great guy. He's the guy is giving money to the product to support us and make us laugh. And for that, I commend you and I think you're a goat. TBT.
No, he's a great guy. I basically said, yeah, you're my dad now. And he's taken to the role. He really has.
Let's
So
go, Chris.
shout out to Chris.
But anyway, so I almost said real people, but people who like aren't angry, ravenous trolls do like know that Impact is like a legit thing to be respected and has some bangers. But even back in the day, people could dunk on Impact all they want, but there was no denying Motor City Machine Guns. They were like one of the people that were like a staple, and people would be like, "Oh, Impact sucks" or whatever, or like "lol TNA," but Motor City Machine Guns are awesome. And same with like Samoa Joe. Like it's kind of like the legendary staples to me. Like it's like Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Motor City Machine Guns, Gail Kim are like kind of like the undeniables, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I think to see that and then bring in like new guys, and then it is a mixed match in a good way, but story wise, it makes sense because we just had Josh versus Swann at our last
Mm-hmm.
event. So, story wise, it makes sense. And to see these guys team up. But yeah,
Another super chat from Luis, who I don't know if I've. Yeah, okay. So Luis says Impact could be hotter, but the fans are too intense. Uh, I think you mean like on Twitter they could be too intense, and I do agree. Um, at least like from the ones I've interacted with, I think they're very much like AEW fans in this way. They're very much like they will go to war for their promotion, which is great because you want diehard fans like that. But I think like on Twitter and I guess sometimes at shows, it's a little bit like I understand how that could be off-putting to someone who's not an Impact fan. That especially if Impact gets criticism for something on Twitter, they really flock in, which I respect because defend your people. But also, I kind of get what you're saying. But at the same time, it's like that's fandom. Like fans have
yeah,
always been like that. Like, not even just wrestling. Like and fans of anything. Like fans of Game of Thrones. Like they were like that when Game of Thrones was airing, and then Game of Thrones had a bad ending, and now they're not like that. Fans of fans of like Harry Potter are like that, especially with like the controversy around the game and everything. So
yeah. And I think my counter argument to that too about how fans are too intense. Go look at any post from Wrestling Observer about the ratings, and you will see deranged individuals from all sides come out on there, like to a shocking degree. But I think because what's interesting to me is Impact, maybe just because I monitor the social interaction of Impact a bit more, and I actually like part of my like responsibility is like actually like making sure people are like engaged and stuff like that. But I think meant the ceiling fans. That's first of all, that's hilarious. But that's a joke right there. That's a good joke.
That was a good joke. That goes like top 5, I think.
Literally. But I think what I love about Impact is the fans are intense, but they are, at least from what I see, pretty respectful, because we've got people like Luna Havoc, right? Who's like every Thursday she's posting, she's doing live reacts on TikTok, and she's, you know, an avid supporter. We've got another guy, I can't remember his Twitter username, but like every Thursday he's like, hey guys, here's the Impact card for tonight. And like there are people like that who are like actively promoting our product. Whereas with, and I think because they know that we like Impact could have more eyes on it, they want to be like actively promoting it. It almost seems like they work for the company, like the way some of these people tweet, and I think I appreciate that so much. Whereas with AEW and with WWE, you're never going to see someone saying like, hey guys, you can order the pay-per-view on Peacock and here's the card, like, because everyone already knows it. No one's going to act like a representative for the company. But for Impact, we have people that would go so far as to be like dedicating their social presence to just like being a walking advert for the company. So it's like that is kind of insane to think about, but like they are respectful and gracious, and I love them for it. And I do think it's awesome.
And I will say, I feel like with AEW fans and my experiences at AEW shows, and I've been to a lot of AEW shows, I've run into a lot of really, really bad people at those shows, just awful human beings. And you know, I haven't been to as many Impact shows or as many GCW shows, but like the smaller communities, I feel like everyone just knows everyone and they're so bonded and connected. And there's something special about that.
Mhm.
So that's my last thought about fans, not of the ceiling variety, of the human variety. So we're coming up in an hour, and I mean, we could go above an hour, but is there any matches on the card that we didn't talk about that you want to end with?
I'm trying to think. Scott said it on the news this morning. Scott was on CTV, which is a Canadian news organization, and Scott said there are some moments at the Windsor tapings that Windsor and Canada fans are going to go nuts for, and some surprises in store. I cannot wait for that. And I think non-Canadians would be like, "Oh, cool," but like I think some of the Canadian fans are going to be like, "Yeah," like so. And plus, too, Impact has such a really strong Canadian roster too. Like so many of our people are Canadian icons.
Oh,
Josh Alexander.
oh yeah, that's so true.
Mike Bailey, Cody Deaner. So what's cool about that is like Josh lives like, you know, in like, I'm not gonna say that actually, but
Yeah, I was about to say.
but point is in Ontario, right? And the people places are from are gonna shock you and be like, oh wow, like that's interesting. And like little towns and stuff like that. That's really all I'm gonna say is, you know, small towns. People live in like small towns. And just to see people come from like, I don't, especially in Canada too, because people think Canada is like nothing but like igloos and stuff like that. But yeah, one time Kiley told me there was too many trees in Canada, which fair point, I guess. But
I'm used to America where everything is flattened for highways.
yeah, exactly. It's for building highways. But point is, there are so many small towns and like pretty much the wilderness that pop up out of nowhere. And then you'll see like a wrestling show done in like a log cabin cottage. And like Josh will be on that, like headlining. The first wrestling show I ever photographed was in a church basement in a super small town called Port Hope. Or no, not Port Hope, Peterborough, which is a super tiny town. And the main event of that was Josh Alexander versus Mark Wheeler for like maybe like 15 people. And it was awesome. So you'll see lots of Impact guys show up even today. And Josh will come out with the Impact Championship and it'll be like a town with a population of like 100 people, but because they pay back their Canadian fans all the time, and it's so cool.
I love that. I want to be Canadian so bad.
I see you tweeting about wanting to move. Like, we got the land up here. 80% of Ontario is pure wilderness with land for sale for very cheap. 80% wilderness in Ontario.
Would you believe me? Right now on my computer, I'm looking at it right now. I have a tab open for University of Toronto PhD in history program.
Yo, do it. Their logo is kind of sick. It's like a little U on a
Yeah.
shield with them. Yeah. And the campus is real close to my house, so.
Bet. I don't want to turn political, but Florida is a disaster. But I like to end the shows. Yeah, I like to end the shows by just giving like your final thoughts and then your plugs, like plug your Twitter, your shows, all that kind of stuff.
The thing with like, I'll plug myself, sure, but the thing is, a lot of my plugs are not like wrestling related, like you know. But I'll go ahead. So, final shots on the show first, or final thoughts on the show first. I'm just so excited that this is Impact's return to Canada, and because of that, we have, you know, people are going to be going nuts for Josh Alexander, and they're going to be going nuts for Mike Bailey, and Diener's not on the card, but I hope he shows up because they're going to tape the TV episodes that weekend as well. So I hope Diener's involved too, because people are going to love that. But yeah, the audience is going to go crazy. So I think even if you're watching from home, you're going to feel how special it is that they're returning to Canada. And they're doing 4 shows in Canada coming up. We got this one, and then we have in April Rebellion at the Toronto Rebel nightclub, which is like one of the sickest venues ever. And then we have Under Siege at the London Western Fair Agriplex, which is where I helped Dalton Castle cheat to win against Psycho Mike. Actually, Dalton Castle wasn't in on the cheating. I just distracted Mike because I hated him. But point was, me and Dalton Castle did a wild program in the London Western Fair Agriplex. And then we have, I think, another show coming up later. But yeah, London, Windsor, Toronto. Whoo! And Impact fans in Canada, especially just the Canadian fans in general, is we don't get a lot of huge shows all the time, right? Like, I imagine if you live in Florida, you've seen AEW live like a billion times, maybe. In Canada, we've had 2 AEW shows ever, and they were filled with local talent like Taylor Rising, Alexi Nicole, Voros Twins, a guy I trained with jobbed out to Lance Archer. Like, it just, and all the same fans go to all the same events. And because Canadians don't really think in terms of like Toronto is where I'm gonna go. If a show's in Winnipeg and they live in Toronto, they'll be like, oh, it's a Canadian show, I'll go, even though that's like a 5-day drive. They'll do it. So like, we have a guy who's like a fan who goes to everything. His Twitter is Ringside with Chops. If you don't follow him, he's a good follow because he just goes to every show. He once left the show halfway through, drove an hour to show up to another show that was going on at the same time and catch like one match on that, and then drove to see another match on a different card. Like, he's such a diehard. So he's driving to Windsor for this show, even though Windsor's like a 4-hour drive from Toronto. He was just in Winnipeg for AEW. So like, the Canadian scene is like so tight knit, and they are gonna blow the roof off the place. And like, anything involving Canadian talent, they're gonna go crazy for. So I really cannot wait for that. Any final thoughts from Kiley on this card?
I'm super excited. I feel like on paper, this is an incredible card. And I feel like if you're going to get into Impact Wrestling or you're going to watch a show, I feel like this is the one to watch. There's so many matches on here that would appeal to like a lapsed fan or like an AEW fan or a Ring of Honor fan or something like that. There's a lot of names you probably recognize. Some maybe you don't, but I'm really excited for this show. And I'm also I'm most excited for Mickie James. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all good.
But that's my final thoughts. And I have a big plug to do. So did you plug everything you wanted to plug?
I didn't plug anything yet. You go first.
Well, I have to do the boring like and subscribe thing. So you go first.
Okay. Okay, so folks, I didn't put my Twitter in my name, but my Twitter is Luke, spelled as it says here, Luke V Peron, Paron. Twitter, Luke V Perron. I post a lot about not wrestling, though. That's the thing. If you follow me, expect a lot of Better Call Saul fan cams. Mainly reading is kind of my niche in my digital content. If you see my library behind me, I do a lot of book reviews on there. I do tweet about Impact when I do talk about wrestling, but I can't remember the last time I tweeted about AEW or WWE. But anyways, if you like Impact, I do work there and post a lot about Impact stuff. So I should have worn my Impact windbreaker. That's what I should have worn today. I realize that now. But anyway, a lot of Impact stuff. I have a hardcore match coming up at the London Music Hall, April 30th. That's going to be a banger card with a lot of crazy talent on there. Masha Slamovich, I don't know who she's facing, but me versus Psycho Mike in a hardcore match, grudge match to conclude our feud that's been going on for like 5 months. That's going to be crazy. And I hope people pull up to that because it's going to be something. Other than that, guys, my YouTube is kind of the main thing here. If you guys like content like this, like Tag Talk, I got a show called Luke and Friends, where I bring on different personalities. A lot of it is wrestlers, but I have expanded beyond that. I have a lot of creators from all sorts of places coming on. But yeah, we've got interviews out with Tempest, one of the best wrestling journalists in the world, one of the few I don't have muted. And then we've got Sway Archer. That's actually one of the most beneficial ones to watch. If anyone here wants to get into wrestling and is like an indie wrestler and you want to know how to bring your gear to the next level, Sway Archer makes gear for like WWE, Impact, NXT, WWE. I already said that. New Japan. I think the only place he hasn't made gear for is like AAA. But yeah, that one's awesome. Tons of good insight there. And then Mike Bailey is coming on that show at some point. And the good thing about that show too is it's all in studio. The guests come to the studio, so live back and forth, which is really nice because that's something I wanted to focus on too. A lot of people do like web shows, and I thought I just gotta bite the bullet and get these guys in the studio. So yeah, that's really, really excited for that. And we'll have Mike Bailey on at some point when the show returns, but it's shot in a studio that's in my garage, so it's very, very cold right now. But other than that, Instagram, Luke_Perron, post book reviews there all the time. And TikTok, I don't know what my TikTok handle is, just it's somewhere online under my name. Anyway, folks, I suck at plugging things. I love wrestling. I love Impact. It's going to be a great card, and I hope you guys watch it because it's going to bring in a lot of good viewers. And you can watch Impact. This is where the plugs get good. You can watch Impact Wrestling weekly for $1 a month on Impact Insiders. I see a lot of people who don't live in America, who don't have access TV, say, "Oh, I can't watch Impact. Sorry, I don't have access TV." Hold the phone. $1 a month. That is $12 a year to watch Impact Wrestling live every single week with exclusive insider chats. Sometimes even wrestlers pop into the chat. We have exclusive rewards. So you can watch all of our plus specials there. You can catch our pay-per-views on, we just partnered with DAZN recently. It's going to carry a lot of our pay-per-views. But yeah, guys, the show's coming up this weekend, Friday, March 24th. Sacrifice in Windsor, St. Clair College. Gonna be an absolute rager. Yeah, I can't wait, guys. So check out Impact Wrestling. Also, we post pretty much the entire show in clip form on YouTube for free on Saturdays. The show airs Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. If you can't catch the show Saturday, we release every single match from the show for free on YouTube. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay, here's the big plug. You can follow me on Twitter at Fuller_Kiley. I post everything I'm doing there. I also post more about wrestling than Luke. So if that's your thing, you can follow me. This is Tag Talk. We're live every Monday at 3 p.m. on Fightful Overbooked. April 3rd is when Haley returns, and Haley is my normal co-host. This is the special guest series. We've had a lot of special guests on. If you want to go back and watch those, we had Kate and Rob Wilkins and Ella J and Collins and so many great people. So if you want to go back and watch those, go to the Tag Talk playlist on the Fightful Overbooked YouTube channel. And also, this is Fightful Overbooked. This is the ESPN2 to Fightful's ESPN. We have a lot of great content here, a lot of wrestling content, a lot of non-wrestling content, a lot of great shows. So subscribe to Fightful Overbooked and go explore. Go to the playlist tab and go see everything that's happening on this channel. There's a lot of great people here, and everyone works so hard on this damn channel. Oh,
No one works harder than Chris Muller.
Chris was also on the special guest series. I forgot you were on it because Haley was also just randomly on that show. But he was also here. We did the Revolution preview, I think Chris was on. So if you want to go watch that, you can go watch that. He doesn't have a camera because he's a nerd. Yeah. So subscribe to Faithful Overbook. Like this video. If you're watching this after we go live, welcome. Comment below what you think about anything we talked about. Impact. What do you think about Mickie James? What do you think about the ceiling fans at Impact shows? Whatever you want. I want to hear what you have to say. All that being said, Tag Talk, Monday, 3 p.m. Fightful Overbooked. We'll see you guys next week.